So that was my topic. The state can't deal with state-controlled diseases alone, with state-controlled diseases. Remember, in this country, we deal with 99% of livestock diseases ourselves. The industry, with the private vets, and you have to let that sink in, deal with 99% of diseases ourselves. Even some state-controlled diseases like brucella, rabies is a little bit of a different one where the state play a major role, especially if it's in dogs and things like that. But the one disease that we can't control, where we don't have any power, no power, as private veterinarians or as farmers, is foot-and-mouth disease. So over the last, I don't know how many years, we saw things happening and maybe less budget, less money being put into the state veterinary system. We got to a stage where the state veterinary system is funded in such a way that 75%, sometimes 80% of the budget go to salaries. And all of you that know a business, 80% of the budget go to salaries. There's no money for petrol and vehicles and doing something. You know, people are still in the office, but not doing something. And that's a reality. In relative terms, the budget and the funding of state veterinary services in this country is maybe 50% less in relative terms than it was 20, 30 years ago. And we have to understand that as well. So the state is incapable of dealing alone with state-controlled diseases, and we've experienced this. So I'm going to use an analogy. How do you say that in English? Analogy. So we have private security and we have state security. And all of us know nowadays, I can't only depend on the state to provide my security. Where I stay, in Muldersdrift, close to Lanseria Airport, I absolutely need to have people on standby. I can't live there if I don't have private security. So I have to pay my salary, my tax for police services, and then I have to pay every month for private service. So I have to not rely on the state itself. Now, if you look at this analogy and you look further, what happened in the case of emergency? If I rely on the state, what happened? I have to phone. I have to phone them. The call must be answered. Then they'll ask my address. And if they will want to, if there's a vehicle, I will be attended to. It's paid for the taxpayers there. Some cost, it's paid for the taxpayer. And there's some legal powers with that service. They've got legal powers. So what do we have on the private security side? In the case of emergency, I don't call. I click an emergency button. They've got my address. I'm a paid membership. They on call 24 hours, otherwise I don't pay them. And they're there. They're there. That's private security. It can go even further than that. My beam can go off in the garden. They pick up the call. They're there before I knew it went off. That is the level of private security in this country. Immediately they will phone me. Just think if the police can do that. Just think if the state state police can have my address on a map, and when I call, they can contact me. Is it possible? Is it possible in today's world? It's totally possible. Totally. We have all the technology to be able to do that. The police can have my number. When I call, they would know it's me, as an example. And I want to use this analogy. But we pay for that. And they have limited powers. They don't have the same powers as the police. And take this through now to veterinary services. Take this through to veterinary services. We have a state veterinary service that have state-controlled diseases, foot and mouth disease. The whole law, all the controls is lying there. And then as private individuals, farmers and veterinarians, we want to also see where we can help if the service is not there. The outbreak, 1st of May 2024 in the Eastern Cape, was an eye-opener for me. I was flying down to the Western Cape on that day, that holiday, and Gerard is here. I spoke to the vet from Humansdorp this morning, Anthony. They saw this first signs 2 days before. They sent in the samples, fly it up to Joburg. The lab there in Joburg, Dr. Livio was still there. He worked on the holiday. By the end of that day, the next day, they had the answer. It was foot and mouth. They had the confirmation. So what could they do? Immediately, the prevention, and prevention, I'll go into detail now, have two components. Prevent exposure, stop movement, or increase immunity, FND vaccination. You have two legs, and that's all you have. But it all depends on early disease detection. This was detected by a private vet. There was supposed to be 48 hours, everything must have been in place. Standstill of all animals, vaccination done, everything. It took 2 or 3 weeks. It was still a good case. You still got over it in September. But we were not totally prepared. We couldn't push the button. And if you want to remember something today from my talk, we have to get to a system where we push a button and everything is happening. We had a contingency plan then in 2024, which I asked the state for to share it with me. It took me 12 months and a lot of dreigende boodskappe for them to share what happened after the outbreak. No, it was only with the state at that stage. That was the first thing that the state ever shared with us as private vets, is what happened after the outbreak. We were not allowed to know what is the steps taken. So we have to get to the place where we push a button and things work. The operational center in the Eastern Cape, still up to today. I'm talking to the minister. Brent was with me last Friday. I said to him, come and visit this op center in the Eastern Cape. I tell you, for 2 years, we need a national ops center. We're not there. We're not close to that. But the Eastern Cape, you have everybody, the state veterinarian, and you're lucky because the state is working well together with the private veterinarian, with the livestock industry, and other role players. I maybe have forgotten some of the role players. But you have the example here, and you have to build on that. I want to congratulate you on that. And in today's technological world, it is so easy. It's actually so easy, and it's not that expensive. You just have to have a physical op room and a virtual op room. You have to be in contact with every farmer, every vet. Just on that point, I've phoned some of the veterinarians in the Eastern Cape that's close to us, and they say they didn't know about this Congress. So next year, please invite all the private veterinarians personally, because they said to me they don't know about this Congress. So what the Eastern Cape does done there, from May to September, having every farm plotted, status of the farm, vaccination status, quarantine status, joining farms. Is that too much? No, that's precisely what must be in place for the country. There was an example in 2024. The minister was appointed in, I think, July 2024, and I gave him a list of priorities. And the first on the priority was the ops room. I never heard of that again until late in 2025 when we had the Indaba and I was on the task team. We could have had that in place 2 years before that. Apathy, the lack of urgency. If I have to tell you everything that happened in this country with foot and mouth or state-controlled disease is apathy and the lack of urgency. People ask me, is there other agenda behind that? I said, no. It's apathy. People that don't understand urgency. That is our problem. So that was a good example. Why we didn't use this example wider? Because in disease prevention, don't matter what disease, we just have two options, two arms. Sometimes we use one, sometimes we use another one, sometimes we use it in combination. Prevent exposure or increase resistance. So I'll send this through to you. I don't have time to. So prevent exposure is the farmer's job. And there's a lot of sub-headings there. Increase general resistance, that is just good nutrition and everything. And then there's specific resistance, and that's vaccination. Now, if we get to foot and mouth, the vaccination plan, and there's one or two principles that I see farmers don't understand, is even when we started vaccination now for foot and mouth, that when you vaccinate a naive animal, you need a minimum of 2 weeks for the body to recognize that foreign agent, that antigen, to build up immunity from 2 weeks onwards. You need 2 weeks. The thing that you vaccinate sick animals in the middle of an outbreak, absolute bullshit nonsense. You vaccinate, you can vaccinate all the herds around them, but you can't chase the immune system. The immune system takes its time. But then you have to remember the next one. Once you vaccinate it, don't matter if that first vaccine only protects 85% or whatever. Once you vaccinate it and you revaccinate, you get immunity within 2 days. The body don't have to identify the antigen again, break it up. It only call up the memory cells. And in that, when you revaccinate, and that's this work that was done by Genesis Bargo now in Wageningen in Holland. If you revaccinate, the amount of antibodies that you get is 40 times on a logarithmic scale. Not 4 times, 40 times higher. So those 3 concepts, it takes 2 weeks. After you revaccinate, within 1 or 2 days, you protect it. And that don't matter if it's a month after the first vaccination or 6 months or 12 months. It don't matter. And then the last thing, if you revaccinate, and they've shown with their STAT1 strain in broad protection that they get 100% protection after revaccination. That's under lab conditions. And field conditions, there's a few things that work with that. Where's the point? Do I use the pointer here?
I'm not sure. I think you can point to the main. I think it's got to be pointed to the main screen.
Okay. Anyway, don't have that much time. You can read this. I'll share this with you. We have these 2 legs. decrease exposure or increase resistance. And if you look where's FMD there on this thing, it's right in the corner here. The only thing that we had as a tool was to stop exposure. We are the country free of foot and mouth without vaccination. We were there. We were sitting there. We didn't have an option for a vaccine at that stage. The state had a little bit of vaccine, but we had to treat the disease in that quadrant. I just want to quickly show you, for instance, lumpy skin. Who of you had lumpy skin this year? Burgersdorp, Aliwal, who else? Steinsburg. So remember, the vets do the disease reporting to me every month. I see Steinsburg, they had Burgersfort, Aliwal Noord. Who else in the Eastern Cape had lumpy skin? What area? Cathcart. Matat. Why did it happen? Why did it happen? It's the best vaccine on the market. It's 100% effective, 100%. So one of the vaccines that's 100% effective. If you had a vaccination and you have the booster a year later, you will never in your life see lumpy skin. If we had the problem, we didn't vaccinate. And the vaccine is available. But maybe you had another problem and we can talk about that. But that's an example of a disease where we can't lower the exposure. The insects is there. We can't lower it. We absolutely have to work on vaccination. So in our disease reporting system, one of the things that I want to do better with the farmers is the maps. And actually we finalized this last week. We have so much data, but we didn't have enough visual presentation for the farmers to say, listen, this is happening. If this is happening, last year, lumpy skin started in August already. It's too early. It normally starts only in January. We knew it's going to be a big problem, but our communication systems with farmers is not good enough. Now I want to ask and beg from you. So I'm doing this vaccination planning survey. Who of you got it through a WhatsApp group? One. Nobody else. Brent, to whom did you...
No, there's only 2 people in the room that open their messages and read them.
Okay. I'm going to beg from you. I have to finish this research in two months' time. So there's a questionnaire, and I know you're gut full of questionnaires. This is a benchmark. You'll never see a questionnaire like that again. Just help me. So the guys who have answered so far in this is one of the questions. 80% of them said, we want early warnings. And I will take that to heart. If 80% of the cattle farmers in the country say, we want early warnings, we will put money behind that to give the early warnings. The vets already do the work. For the last 15 years, they report the diseases on a monthly basis. We just have to communicate better that you can get the early warning, like lumpy skin, you can prevent it 100%. Okay, would you undertake to help me with that? Please. I'll never ask you a questionnaire again. This is a benchmark. This is the ultimate. It's a simple one, but you will know that it's going to be used. I want everybody in the Eastern Cape to participate. So what happened to FMD? We moved from control without vaccination to vaccination. What a hell of a road. You know, we had Argentinians here in January, who signed the contract. We were going to go forward in February, and the state decided they can't work through Design Biologics, which would be the obvious option with their very good distribution. It must go through OBP. We now, from February to now, 7 months later, and now for the first time in 2 weeks' time, Frikkie, maybe you can confirm that we're going to get 4.5 million into RMIS, ready in a warehouse that we can move forward. Because you can't move forward with your planning if you don't. Remember, this vaccine has a 2-year expiry date. You can bring in 12 million and then do your campaigns. You cannot sit with 1.5 million and dish out like this. Oh, you were sweet, a good girl, you get a sweet. No, you can't control foot and mouth like that. You sit with 10 million and then you control it. The Argentinians could have provided us with 6 million every month from March, April, May, June. Why didn't we get it in? They have to get paid. You don't get paid, how do you make it? They still made 6 million on their risk. How much money is in the budget starting 1st of July in Department of Agriculture budget for foot and mouth vaccines? Ask the minister. Ask the department. Because that budget was set up in the height of the foot and mouth outbreak. You think in the height of the foot and mouth outbreak you would have budgeted for vaccine. If you didn't do that, why not? Currently there's no budget, I can tell you. The money is taken from other places. It can't be. It just can't be. There must be R1 billion budget for vaccine. Now we come back to our talk, can the state do it alone? We're not going to sit back. We're going to take it on ourselves. And I say we, you as farmers. If there's vaccine available, you don't want to sit in a situation where you have susceptible herd. You need at least one vaccination. Otherwise, you sit on a time bomb. Once you have one vaccination, everything changes on the status of the animals. If you can get the booster then in, you as an individual farmer are good. You are good for 6 months or 12 months, but you're good even long term. We need that button. The system I developed in 15 years on the disease reporting, we have to get more of the information out to you. I undertake today that if the last thing I do is to have a national vaccination planning on an electronic basis with reminders, with early warnings, that thing that you're going to fall in is going to go towards setting up that system. That is the one thing what's the English word? Ek sit my kop op 'n blok vandag vir julle, dis wat ek gaan doen. I've done some post-vaccination surveillance with the Bioaftigen vaccine from Biogenesis. I only work with them. A major dairy herd in the Western Cape, 11,000 cattle on one farm. We vaccinated 6,000 dairy cattle in 2 days. First vaccination, monitor them on cow manager. Vaccinate 6,000 again a month ago. Monitor them on cow manager. I wanted to make sure I don't get bad reactions, anaphylactic shock. We haven't seen one case. Swellings, big swellings where we inject. There's a few transient, little bit of swelling under the eye, especially with the booster, but with the Bioaftigen vaccine, I'm 100% sure. I've done beef herds, my own clients in Limpopo, where I vaccinated 1,200 heifers, and I've got a system there where they report to me every day. Didn't see one adverse reaction. Half of them were pregnant. We had so far 3 abortions in that one herd. Last year, I analyzed our figures last year, we had 2% abortions, which is normal in heifers. This year, after the vaccination, we have 0.5. Nothing abnormal. And I still monitor it. We'll monitor it in this dairy herd, because on cow manager, we can look at the previous 3 months, this 3 months, and the next 3 months. We also will look at reproductive. So far, I couldn't pick up any signal that the vaccine is causing severe bad effects. We do our feedlot trials at Currans feedlot at Nigel, where we have 11,000 cattle that was in quarantine. We vaccinated all of them. We took samples from 3 different lots, and we're now at day 30, and now we're stuck. Now we're stuck because we can't find a lab that can do our surveillance, our serology. Now we have to fight again. We have to fight to get a lab to do our serology, not the virus. It's clean of the virus. It's just antibodies. And I do a big community in Limpopo on communal cattle. Okay, I'm not going to stand still with it. I'll share this information. I see my time is up. So just telling you, my work was disease reporting and vaccination planning. That's my job. I do work a lot close with Design Biologics because I realized in my head, like the people who started Design Biologics, Peter Smith and Karen Nell started in 1994. They saw where everything is going. They start their own vaccine manufacturer. Currently, we're producing 95% of the vaccines that OBP was vaccinating, the types. It's only the red water vaccines that they don't do, and horse sickness and the live blue tongue yet. But all the other ones, that showed me, and how did we do that? The vets that's in my network sent in samples from the field. And we took South African samples, put it in a lab, culture it from cell line to cell line, and make new vaccine. We've done the whole thing that Onderstepoort was doing for 80 years. We had to redo in the last 30 years, and we've done that. The disease maps, early warnings, that is the thing where I really want to work with the ops room, with Eastern Cape RPO. If I give you something back or ask you something, don't say, oh, here, what do Donnie now still want? Everything that you give me, you will get rewarded for in a program. Our VNet report system per vet area give us an overview of a year, 2 years. I can go back to 15 years on a review. We have a new electronic system where we set up a year plan for your beef cattle herds, vaccination plan, with monthly reminders, with a budget. Because you have to have a budget for the year. And when do you give that? All of that will happen. We're busy with the WhatsApp reminders, because I've used email, it don't work. It's like me, don't send me email, I don't look at emails anymore. Still, I look at WhatsApps, I don't know what's next, because I even struggle to look at WhatsApps now, it's too many. And like you don't open it. And yeah, that's how Lumpy Skin went through the country this year. This is the map. Our Asiatic red water, our single biggest problem in the country, with no result. We're going to a situation where we want to be FMD free with vaccination. That means now every farmer must be on a system. We must know the status, who's vaccinated, who's due for reminder. If we want to get to a situation of disease free with vaccination, if the state is not going to do that, when I started as a state vet 40 years ago, I had a database of all my farmers. My animal inspectors inspected them every 6 months. I was on the Botswana border, and it was a paper-based system. Today, we sit with electronics. We have to have a register of all cattle producers in the Eastern Cape, in front of us, and their status regarding foot and mouth disease vaccination, and revaccination. Thanks, Jay.